Everyone in this world is looking for value, purpose, looking for progress, looking for change. But the ways and means in which we seek change are always so short-lived. Looking for changes out there. And yet we are powerless in our thoughts. When something unexpected happens, It is the upheaval inside, the instability inside. That is where change can happen. To begin with, I may not be able to change others. I may not be able to change the situations around me. I can try. But often trying to change others, change situations, comes with peacelessness, expectations that are not fulfilled, altercations. And the question lies, is there something that drives our world, drives our lives, but cannot be seen? The core of every being is affected by that which cannot be seen. Peace, love, purpose, belonging, stability, freedom. These are inner experiences. Every soul can feel these experiences. And when I change, how is it that my change can affect others? My choices change, my responses change. And albeit it might seem like a stretch, even my vibration can change. And others can feel that beyond words. The core of every being is that we are souls. And what the world needs right now is not to be a part of the problem, but to embody what others seek as much as I seek, to experience what is real and feel that which is real change me from within. Om Shanti. Om Shanti, good evening. Tonight, we do not have an interview, as you can see. Sister Judy is not available, so we have a special spiritual talk or spiritual sharing. And the topic that's inspired me was originally going to be the purpose of Raja Yoga. However, trying to articulate what has been on my attention, my reflection, this entire day, it really felt like it would be more fitting. The topic is practical insights of spirituality. And so for those who have joined on YouTube or in Instagram, you may or may not have taken Raj Yoga. If anything, the sharing this evening is about my experiences of Raj Yoga. And it has been significantly profound in the last few days. Definitely has been very profound in the last several years. But to be able to find practical changes, practical applications of Raja Yoga, it would perhaps be something that many students have spoken about. How can what I learn be something practical? And I suppose it depends on why one is seeking to take Raja Yoga. And of course, we are all very unique beings in the world. And so we each have to be able to honor what that is and to be honest of what we are seeking within. But that's what's going to make anything that we seek in life very useful, meaningful, purposeful, relevant. And so, in terms of the crux of what Raja Yoga is about, and I won't go into the depth just because of the limits of time, but the history of Raja Yoga, the Brahma Kumaris, the history of it, and in terms of looking at the original students, the first students in the study, many of us who have heard about the powerful stories, these students had incredible amount of spiritual power. And it wasn't that they were coercing any kind of change. Many of them were in very challenging, difficult situations without any violence, any retaliation or rebellion. The change that happened inside and the effect that it had on others. If for those who are listening on YouTube, we share a meditation commentary before the interview, so we did the same as well. So for those who are on Instagram, please visit the YouTube, the Calgary YouTube site, the BK Calgary, and if you just check out tonight's session. But in terms of the what one learns in Raja Yoga is that we're spiritual beings. And of course, those who take it, it really depends on, where you are at in life and whether that resonates with you or not. And so for myself, it really resonated with me when I took the course to learn that I am a soul. I'm not a body. And even though it was just a fleeting feeling at that time, which I perhaps probably forgot and didn't think about again many years later, was with the sense of relief that I felt that, oh, I do not have to be defined by labels. And that really drew my attention, perhaps because for many years, many, many years, just feeling very limited of how we define ourselves. And so that was such a huge relief to learn. But as I also continued in the study, I realized as well, perhaps maybe others do, but I can only speak for myself. Just some big, perhaps, assumptions that one has about spirituality. And so you learn about being a soul. And the reason why I share that these last several days have been extremely profound was because of just practicing what is that experience of being a soul. It's been nearly now 20 years. But what I did not realize the kind of power I was accumulating. And the reason why I share is because something that many souls have actually mentioned about is that they struggle with, they learn about being a soul, but then they go into certain situations as if nothing changes. Their attitudes are the same, their reactions are the same, how they perceive others to be the same, affected by the same things, same sensitivities, all the same problems. And what I realized is that the core of Raja Yoga is you really, really are learning just the practical reality to feel that I'm a soul. And that is very different from just thinking about being a soul. And we don't realize that if I am open to consider that I am a soul and I've had many births, there are a lot of assumptions that we have inside. And one of the amazing things for myself in the study of Raja Yoga is watching these blind spots and suddenly seeing them as if I've never seen them before. I do find being in the study of Raj Yoga extremely exciting and very liberating to be able to see things I never saw within myself, profound realizations, and seeing so many changes. Within the last few days, just to be able to experience myself to be a soul has been so different. Perhaps it's just a pinnacle point. Perhaps some call it an event horizon, an accumulation of the experience, practice, practice, practice. But to really feel that I'm not this body and I'm not shutting things out, I'm not closing my eyes. And for those of you who have driven a car or are driving a car or learning to drive a car, you perhaps can recall that if it is, you just start driving a car or you get a new car, you are just trying to figure out the dimensions of the car. And you're concerned that when you're driving, if you're parallel parking, if you're reversing, you're backing into a parking stall, what's the dimensions of the car? How far is it from the curb? How far is it from the wall that you're backing into a parking stall, etc. Now, the dimensions of a car are so important because you don't want to have any impact, any harm to the car. And so it's the same thing with the body as well. And we take it for granted on a day-to-day basis how much, with respect to the body, we are seeking for value. And it's so subtle, even to the point of, yes, my body gets hurt, but even value in terms of someone's smile, someone's approval, it is profound when we realize how much we are seeking. And these last few days, especially since Sunday, such a feeling myself as this living being, and I can experience myself as this living point of light, and it's not a vision. I can feel the dimensions of myself, and I can feel the silence that I'm experiencing, that I've been accumulating through the years, really concentrate. I feel like a concentrated being. And I can feel that what I also need to focus on is experiencing again and again, practically speaking, my 7 qualities, my original qualities, the qualities we often say in the Course, the original qualities of the soul. And why is this so important? Because whatever I have inside is whatever I'm going to dish out, especially automatically. And we don't realize that our personality, we hold on to that, we identify with that, you hang on to that like it's like some coat around you. And that personality you've identified is constantly operating. And whether or not you are content with your personality or not, irritated with your personality or not, perhaps we don't realize we have some prescribed, for habitual ways of how we respond to situations. But when you learn about being a soul and you actually start to realize there was a time in our journey as souls where I didn't have to think about how I had to respond. And all that came out of me was actually pure of these 7 qualities. And these qualities are love, truth, purity, power, harmony, peace, and bliss. And not just things I intellectualize, but things this experience I actually feel. And I'm learning to feel again and again and again. And for those who have taken Raj Yoga, or if you have not taken, there is this aspect you learn that through time, what is it that burdens our consciousness, that puts such a weight on ourselves and we don't even realize, is because we have been doing things, making decisions, having impressions and awarenesses that are completely opposite of who we are. We are not beings who are defined by physicality. And these past few days to feel that has been so powerful. And when I just take a pause, we often call in the study traffic control. We take a pause and I've been really just, I guess it's an accumulation of feeling this stillness, the silence of myself, to just really concentrate to feel myself, to be a soul seated behind the eyes. And for those of you who have learned about Raja Yoga, you are also learning to take after your spiritual parent, those same qualities and that same form. And so I'm not just blindly doing this on my own. There is actually someone, my spiritual parent, everyone's spiritual parent, whether they're aware of it or not. Some call him God. They have different names in different religions, different ideas of who this being is. And I can say that being in the study, it's just tremendous to be able to realize that you're not defined by physicality. And this is why I was really pulled to share in terms of practical insights, to really feel your form. How I found that it's been so important, because we don't realize that when we use that word dimension, sometimes we use it and it's like, our world, this physical dimension, that I'm so defined by physicality, and my dimensions are the body. And my dimensions in terms of existence is always with respect to something, and we don't realize it. It's always relative to something, relative to another person, relative to a situation, relative to outcomes. And we've been doing that for birth after birth. That our sense of value, to feel okay, to feel like, it's a good day or not, it's always based on any of these things. And that's why we have such peacelessness. That is why there's so much sorrow, so much conflict out there. And so the experience of my form and the quality of who I am, that's really what Raja Yoga is about. And what happens is when you have a completely different lived experience of yourself, it starts to really erase these physical experiences you've had of yourself. And so, in the physical world, in this particular physical birth, right now I play a role as a nurse. And I used to work with children with cancer. And even when I was in university finishing the degree, you learn about the experiences that patients have. So I had a chance to see this in reality. And children, especially those who have had cancer at a very young age, sometimes I've seen them since they were born, sometimes, the age of 1, 2, 3. But when they're so young and there's no way to articulate to them what's happening, they are just being woken up in the middle of the night to have their blood pressure taken. Sometimes they need to have blood taken. But just having to, just even do assessment, checking their eyes, it's frightening for them. And so for them, that lived experience again and again in the hospital setting, again and again. And I've had patients, in the current job I am now, where they were patients with cancer as young children, and they have actually shared that they can't walk into a hospital because of that lived experience. And I use this as an example because spirituality has often become just this ethereal thing, intellectual. And I often hear some, they're not the first students in the study, been in the study for 30, 40 years. They often say, have we really changed? Am I really changing? And that's why, to really feel who I really am, how essential that is. Because just like in this situation with a child with cancer, unless they have a completely different lived experience in the hospital setting, doesn't matter who tells them, it's actually safe, it's all good, but they keep reliving that experience of what they had again and again. This is how powerful our awareness is. This is how powerful experiences are. We've had many physical experiences of ourselves again and again. However, at the same time, what really moves us, if each of us asked ourselves, it's still the things that you can't see. It's the feelings that we have. Love, as mentioned in the meditation commentary, peace, that feeling of letting go, the feeling of lightness, the feeling of freedom, the feeling of belonging, the feeling of stability. It's what I'm feeling inside is what shapes my reality. And so the experience of being a soul, to truly feel my sense of self. And this is what the biggest challenge that many have is that let me just stop my thinking, stop my feelings, let there just be no self. Because it seems like that's the problem is the ego and all of that. But it's like a music box. A music box was meant to play. And if it starts to lose its power, I mean, like a wind up music box, and it starts to, lose its that beauty because it's losing its energy, do you just throw it out the window? Do you just stop the music? Your mind and you, a being of consciousness, like your original function, that's what this is about, is that if we were to really understand who we are, that's one thing. But I want to feel who I really am and experience that. And so it often has been said that God has taught Raja Yoga. And that is definitely what my experience has been. Because, for some of you, you have heard that, Brahma Baba, who is the first student, not the founder, but the first student in the study, is that he experiences what it feels like to be a soul. And for each of us to be able to feel what that feels like. And that there really is, this aspect of spiritual genetics, so to speak, is that we're always trying to copy someone around us. But who better to copy than a being who is actually always in that state of being a soul? And so I know we're starting to run out of time, but this is where this connection with the Supreme Soul, our spiritual parent, is very important, is because of being colored by the only being who has not been affected by everything of physicality. And that has been what I've been really feeling lately. And even today, when I was at work, there was there was a little bit of a kerfluffle going on the side. There was a lot of complaining going on. And usually I would just be sitting there, doing my work and just listening. But I realized I have to stop right now. And I have to pause and I have to go into that experience of myself. And for the first time, I was feeling this power where I feel separate and I'm observing through the eyes and I'm observing what is heard through the ears, but I'm not letting what I'm hearing affect me. At the end of the day, what Raja Yoga is about is power. In order to develop that power, I need to experience who I am. And so, yes, it's taken, years, and that's not meant to actually dishearten anyone. But I can personally say I've seen tremendous transformation and tremendous progress. But at the same time, the study has often said instant gratification, but also learn long-term gratification. The instant attainments I feel in the study, and also the long term of what I can see this will do for me. And so that's just a little tidbit in terms of practical insights of spirituality. So perhaps maybe we'll just end with a little short reflection. Have I ever been in the presence of someone who is angry, or around someone who is light and easygoing, around someone who is anxious? I am actually very much affected around the company of others, and even how I feel can affect the company of others. It's not something you can see, maybe, of course, someone's body language, but there is also a vibration that's there. Spirituality is power at many levels, power of awareness, and how that affects how I see, and also how I feel, how that affects what I discern, the clarity I have, how I make decisions. But I learn in this journey, practically speaking, if it is of interest to me, that I really am separate from this body. And there is a fullness, an original me, a quality, many qualities of myself. To feel that experience again and again. Because how I see as I walk and move around, I will start to feel this body, this physical world is not my reference point. It becomes my practical reality. I will feel my personality, which is timeless. And I start to feel naturally when I look at others, I see something beyond what the physical eye sees, not a vision. It's because my understanding has changed. I start to feel that others have fallen asleep like I did. But when I feel who I really am, I have what's inside, something that affords me to be able to see much more of who every other being is. I'm learning to live as a spiritual being. And that is about being practical. I practice living as a spiritual being. Om Shanti. So thank you for joining with us this evening. We should be resuming the interview next week. And so if you have any topics that you would like explored, please feel free to send an email to the center. You can always type things into the chat box as well anytime we have these sessions. But in terms of anything that's coming up, this coming Saturday, August 20th, I believe it's 12:30 to 12:15 to 1:30 at the Academy, learn about meditation. And we do have, I believe, the new postings, the dates for the Raja Yoga course in Hindi as well as in English. Hindi, it's often offered as a full course over 2 weekends. And so that will be happening in September. And then the Raja Yoga Foundations course in English is happening in October for English, and again, September for Hindi. And of course, we have these drop-in sessions online every evening, 6:30 to 7:30, meditation, full meditation on every evening except on Tuesdays. And on site, we have the English sessions at the Inner Peace Center on Mondays and Fridays, and on Wednesdays and Thursdays, Hindi. And so all of that is on the website. We can also find some sessions as well on Eventbrite too. So thank you for joining with us. Om Shanti.